Hey guys, so in the last video that I published on this channel, which was like a month ago or something, I said that I had the intention of watching all of the entries at this year's Sinag Maynila Film Festival. But then right after I published that video, I got gastroenteritis, which means I had a bad stomach, I was throwing up everywhere, had no appetite, no energy, body pains and whatever. Suffice to say, I totally missed Sinag Maynila 2017. I didn't get to watch any of the 5 full-length entries. So what I feel like doing now is looking back to 2 of the films that I saw from Sinag Maynila 2016. Actually, the only 2 films I saw from that festival. And I know that this doesn't really make up for anything really, but I just feel like it's the least I can do because I am bummed that I didn't get to watch any of the entries this year. So whatever, let's talk about these movies that you probably have never heard of and will probably never ever see ever again. So first, let's talk about T.P.O. This is directed by Joselito Altarejos, written by him and Archie Del Mundo, and stars Mara Lopez, Oliver Aquino, and Mico Laurente. And what T.P.O. is about is it's essentially about this small family and what they have to go through as Mara Lopez's character is constantly beaten by Oliver Aquino's character, her husband. And she eventually gets a temporary protection order, or TPO, against him, and the film kind of sees what happens to these characters. You have to credit the pure restraint that Joselito Altarejos displays in this movie through his direction, because what TPO is that it's pretty much a series of tableaus that sort of force you to confront the awkwardness of, sort of seeing people in public in between these beatings and the tension that hangs in the air when you know that all of this domestic violence is happening underneath the surface. But what's great that Joselito Altarejos does is that you never actually see any of the beatings in the movie. The most that you see is like from a distance, like through a window, but you still don't really see anything. You just hear the beatings happen, and that's really, really chilling. And as for acting, Mara Lopez and Mico Laurente are really good in this movie. These are performances that require a lot of subtlety. These actors don't really have scenes where they get to quote-unquote do much, but they really portray all that emotion that's going on in their minds just through these scenes. On a negative note though, I feel like Oliver Aquino isn't as in tune with the subtle stuff here compared to his other 2 main castmates. He's a little bit too stoic, so the performance didn't really come through as much for me. However, my biggest issue with TPO is the fact that it's ultimately just too short of a movie. It's like an hour 15 minutes, and the fact that this movie is so short kind of made me feel like the almost extreme length of the individual shots in the film weren't totally justified. I just really wanted more insight with TPO because ultimately the message I got from the film personally was that abuse affects everyone in the family, not just the person being abused. But I think that's kind of a given, so I really wanted more from the film. And on a side note, some of the side characters are treated like caricatures, which is weird given how realistically the movie treats the main characters. In the end, I thought TPO was just okay. It definitely does still have a lot of merit to it, so if ever one day it comes out somewhere, I think it is still kind of worth your time. Now, the second movie that I was able to see from last year's Sinag Maynila is this movie called Dyamper, written and directed by Mesta Guzman and starring Alcris Galura, Carlo Aquino, and Timothy Castillo. And what this movie is about, as much as I can recall, is that it's about this small group of young men who from time to time rob these passing trucks by jumping onto the backs of them and then stealing some rice and then jumping off. And then later on they kind of get involved with some crime stuff. Now, this is the kind of movie where not much happens for the most part. However, I do feel like there's a way to get that right, and I do not think this movie gets it right, in my opinion. I just didn't feel like there was a lot of character being revealed through like these sequences where quote-unquote not much happens. And the plot itself is weirdly sort of convoluted, even if not much is happening. And the crime, when the crime thing is introduced, I didn't quite get like some of the character motivations and whatnot. And it's just really not a very exciting film, which I bring up because the early scenes where you see the boys robbing these trucks, they are kind of thrilling, but they repeat these scenes over and over again, so it gets old really, really fast. Now, I wouldn't really say that the direction or the acting in the movie is terrible by any means. It's just that because I already was not engaged by the film, I was really just looking for anything to really stand out and be great, to really salvage the film for me, but I didn't get anything, unfortunately. I think this movie is a good example as well of a movie that does not exactly maximize its use of black and white cinematography, because there is, again, a way to get that right. For me, there was just no depth or intent in the compositions of the shots here. The one real saving grace I will say that this movie has is Timothy Castillo, who you might otherwise know as Timothy Mabalot. He's really good here, he's actually having a lot of fun, and I think it's solely because of him that he brings personality and character to his character, not the script. But in the end, I do think this is sort of a bad movie. I just couldn't really find a lot to enjoy or take away from it. And there you go, that's it. Those are the two movies I saw at last year's Sinag Maynila. Again, I know that this doesn't really make up for anything. I still missed 5 potentially good movies, maybe. But yeah, what I have to say is that make sure you do not skip your meals, because that's what I did and that's what happened to me. Make sure your diet does not consist solely of sandwiches, convenience store food, and canned coffee, because you're going to destroy your intestines. Anyway, yeah, so if you guys ever saw these movies, or if you saw this year's Sinag Maynila films, what do you think of them? Whatever you thought, whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.